Hi there, Serial Trader here. I got a request for CGC, so let's do an update on that. And since the last time I did a video on CGC, I believe I was working this most recent pullback we've had as a smaller degree fourth wave, but it went, basically it was too large of a degree, too severe of a pullback to actually remain valid as that smaller degree fourth wave. So I've relabeled the wave count here from the last time, but basically still the same message. We have an initial move up. I got this now relabeled as a running flat wave 2, so that's our first 1 up, 2 down. I now have this next move as another 1, 2 down of just one smaller degree there, and that would imply that we still have a wave 3 of 3 kind of dead ahead, so still a fairly bullish message. And I'll just go over some items here. So I think we have an even larger potential inverse head and shoulders formation, just working off of our bottom here, right? So this was where your big left shoulder, that's the head, and then we have this right shoulder here, and then the new neckline of this larger pattern. Now you can have these patterns kind of fractal, just like other things. So there could still be this smaller inverse head and shoulders pattern, and this was that little thrust out of that. But then we have this also larger inverse head and shoulders pattern. So large degree, larger time frame that signals even more upside ahead. But that's our new neckline, and you can see we're still underneath the neckline for that larger potential inverse head and shoulders. But I just thought I'd point that out. So still a very nice kind of bottoming formation. But now we really need to start confirming with further upside here. Now, a few things to go through. And I'll point out. So when we have our moves up, they're on higher volume. When we consolidate, the volume drops off. And you can see that repeatedly. When we trend up, higher volume. When we consolidate, volume dries up. And when we trend up, higher volume. We consolidate, volume dries up. And you can also see that the moves up look impulsive. The corrections down look three wave-like corrective. So that's good. And you do technically still have an uptrend. You have a series of higher highs and higher lows. And we did come down to test that most recent higher low, which came in here 1848, and this most recent pullback bottomed above that at 1865. So this thing isn't making it easy, but I think the message it's sending is still pretty clear, and that's that higher prices have a good potential moving forward here. Now if I just zoom in, and we can stick to the daily here for now, I'll throw up a parallel trend channel here. And you can see this most recent correction, we largely stayed contained within that channel. We got down here, but then if I just briefly switch to a candlestick chart, you can see that we did a bullish engulfing candlestick right where we needed to. That probably scared a lot of people down here, but it did actually hold that previous support. Bullish engulfing candlestick, and then we consolidated a bit. And then we did a big gap up there on earnings. Now, one thing I would like to point out, and let me just, maybe a rectangle will be appropriate here. So if you look at this, you can see we did something called an island reversal. And maybe I'll just zoom in a little closer here. And I'll get rid of the candlesticks for now. So an island reversal is a very potent reversal pattern. It can happen at market tops or it can happen at market bottoms. In this case, it's a bullish island reversal because we gap down, we have a price range, and then we gap up, and then there's a clean area between those two gaps where no trading took place. Now in this case, leading up to the earnings report, maybe it was feared that it was going to be awful, so we gap down. I'm just speculating here. We gap down prior to the earnings report, kind of chopped around, and then the earnings report ended up surprising to the bullish side, so positive reaction off of that. And then we gapped up off the earnings report. But we've left this clean area where we never traded in during regular hours. So that's called an island reversal. And it's a pretty rare pattern, but it can be quite powerful when it does occur, especially given its context, given where we are overall. We have a bullish wave count. We have that larger and smaller inverse head and shoulders, bullish bottom pattern there. And then, of course, the island reversal itself, that looks really good. Okay, so I just thought I'd point that out. But let me go to maybe a 4 hour. Actually, we can just go to an hourly chart here. So even on the short-term price action, you can basically, now this is certainly subject to change, but you can certainly get a nice little one up out of that. That's our 2 down. Maybe this was a wave 3. Looks like we're working potential wave 4 here. And another move up. You could also have potential 1 2 1 2 count. So instead of this being a 1 2 3 4 5, although there's no reason to go to the 1 2 1 2 count as of yet because we certainly don't have overlap. But you could potentially go with the 1 2 count and then a smaller degree 1 2, which would be even more short-term bullish, suggesting a wave 3 of 3 price move kind of dead ahead here. But no need to go there right now. We can currently just work this as a 5-wave sequence in progress. Now what I do like here is obviously when we go up it looks impulsive and trending. Again, the volume's good when we go up. When we consolidate, it looks very corrective, very sideways. Volume drops off, and then that's been continuing. So this looks like a nice corrective pullback after that earnings move. Just consolidating those gains after earnings. And I will also mention, okay, so we had this parallel trend channel that contained this larger AVC down. Now that we got above that upper parallel trend channel line, it's not uncommon to, okay, you poke above it, you kind of correct, dance around on it. Remember, it was formerly resistance on the way down. Now it's kind of acting as support, a little consolidation, and then that'll lead to a move up off of there, and then finally break out of this larger range. So that's all looking pretty good, actually. And, it's certainly difficult if you're looking for this just to go, straight up and pull a Tesla. Now, it may very well pull a Tesla as we get later on into, a more developed uptrend. But in this kind of painful bottoming process, this really isn't too uncommon, seeing these, kind of gyrations, higher highs and higher lows, but still, deep pullbacks, shakes a lot of people out, scares a lot of people out. But the bottom line is the chart certainly looks good, certainly implies further upside, both short-term and longer-term. The earnings report itself was quite good. This company's not going anywhere, and neither is the cannabis industry. It's still very young, still a lot of growth ahead, a lot of future market opportunities when other markets open up. This isn't just about the Canadian cannabis market, but even that is still in its infancy and certainly can grow in and of itself. So yeah, that's my outlook on Canopy growth here as it stands. Again, the chart still looks bullish, and now we actually have some bullish fundamentals, or at least less bearish fundamentals kicking in there with that most recent earnings report. Got the island reversal. So things are looking pretty good here, even for a short-term trade. Looks like you got a nice little corrective pattern you can define some risk against. And I'd like to see it reverse higher pretty soon here. But certainly if we hold this gap, now of course this island reversal could invalidate by filling this gap here. And let's see, we have to get down into the 20s to start filling that gap. But if this gap holds, and we maintain that on reversal, I mean, this is a powerful bullish signature on the chart. And you can see on the daily MACD moving averages, we're on the cusp of a bullish cross, right around the zero line actually. That's kind of, you could consider that a zero line reversal, so that's quite a bullish technical signature as well. And you can see the RSI, where did we find some support down there? Just below that 40 level, so that range between 40 and 50 is kind of that RSI bull market support range. So to have a reversal off of that is quite a nice signature with that as well. And you can see also the volume bar here, quite a high volume bar on the earnings reaction. So a lot of positions changing hands, a lot of conviction behind that move. And so far we are holding a large amount of those gains, holding this large island gap that we've got. So that's pretty good. Now you can see I have the T line here, and that's currently just over 21. So the T line is kind of catching up to this gap up move, and it wouldn't be unusual to kind of just touch that T line and then kind of reverse up from there. But it's not necessarily a must to touch the T line, especially after such a big move up. We could find a bottom basically any time here and then continue higher. All right, so that's my thoughts on Canopy growth here. Serial Trader signing off.